This is Stephanie of Tellybean Knits. She is a prolific designer and color guru. Like, she's amazing. So I wanted to take an opportunity to interview her for you guys so you can get to know her a little bit better in her designs and her aesthetic and everything. So Stephanie, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm Stephanie Lotvin. My design and knitwear company is called Tellybean Knits. I've been designing, it's been a while now. So since my oldest daughter was 6 months old, she is now 10. She just turned 10 recently. So almost 10 years. I started knitting, that was even longer ago, in 2007. Actually got as the best birthday present ever. My mother gave me knitting classes as my birthday present right before I graduated college. Oh. And so I started knitting and almost immediately moved abroad. My husband and I taught English as a second language through most of our 20s, and we moved to Korea, and there's just not a lot of knitting happening in Korea. Crochet was getting really popular in Japan, and that trend was sort of moving through South Korea while we were living there. So there was yarn, but it was really like aimed at crocheters. So there's a lot of cotton and very structured yarns, but not a lot of like soft merinos and wools around. And so I was so excited to be knitting and out in the world. And it gave me a lot of space to start trying to innovate with my own knitwear, because I just didn't have much of a support system at the time. And so we would come back and forth across the ocean. When we were home, I would get to knit with my husband's grandmother, who my business is named after. Her name was Jetel Lotvin. And so she was called Geet. We named my oldest daughter Jetel after her, and she's called Telly. So the business was called Tellybean Knits. So there was just like a lot of very happy knitting happening in my life while we were traveling. And then when my daughter was born, we were still living in Korea, and I quite frankly was very lonely. We were in a very rural part of South Korea, and I needed a community that I at the time just didn't really have as a stay-at-home mom. And so I started designing knitwear as a way to reach out to people through the internet. And so it was just such a good place to meet testers and meet knitters and like talk with the tech editor. And I could do it all from my living room on the floor with my laptop and my baby who was crawling everywhere. And I was knitting a lot of things for her anyway. And it was such a great way to connect no matter where we were traveling, through yarn. And so that was really like the basis and the foundation for the business that I have today.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't know all of that. It's all new stuff to me too.
That's such a long time ago now.
I know, right? I started knitting when I was younger, but I didn't really take off knitting until probably like 2011, 2012 that I really started. And you were already like gung-ho doing it, like all the stuff. Like you've been well established for a while, right?
Yeah, and Ravelry was just coming onto the scene when I started knitting. So it was just such a good resource for finding new patterns and finding new designers and connecting with other people and seeing what other people were doing. And it was a really fun place to see how other people were using yarn. I feel like before there were project pages, there was no way to deep dive good yarn combinations without just like getting everything off the shelf at your local yarn store, which I did do, or buying everything and then bringing it home and like patting myself on the back about all my best life decisions. And so, yeah, I think I would have to check this, but I was in the early of Ravelry, where I had to like get on a wait list in order to join. And then it wasn't until years later that I started the business. So.
Wow, that's awesome. I started knitting. I crocheted since I was a little kid, but started knitting and didn't even understand that Ravelry was there until probably like 4 or 5 years in. Like,
yeah.
And Ravelry was already a big thing,
right.
But I didn't even know that it was there because I was just, doing my own thing, like knitting with my group. So right. It's good. It's awesome that you discovered that, because I agree with you. Like sometimes you can be in those places in life that's really isolating.
Yeah.
And then you have this amazing fiber yarn community going on, and that's so cool that that's how you join that. That's so
We have
awesome.
so many resources now too, with Instagram and TikTok, and like you can do things on Facebook, and like it is really incredible how quickly it grew and like how much we needed it. I think we
Oh yeah.
all needed it. Even if you live in town with a live knitting group, like it's just not enough knitting connection.
Right. Because you have so many people coming from all walks of life and all perspectives
Yeah.
coming on the internet and going, this is my experience and let
Right.
me help you with yours. Like it's just such an amazing group to pull together online. Like I love that about our, like the people that I've connected with over the years, such as yourself, that everybody's drawn together because of our differences, despite our differences, and enjoying it because we all have different levels of creativity that we're bringing to the table, you know?
Yeah. And I have middle of the night knitting questions, like middle of the night conundrums where I get up and I'm like, well, I'm awake. I guess I'm going to knit. It's 3:00 in the morning and I don't have a solution for this. Thank you, internet.
Yes. And it's all there. I don't want to like bring up bad stuff, but I think that was one thing that COVID helped us is it really helped us find all of these internet ways to grow together.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty cool that we can bring technology into it. Such an old
concept. Absolutely. Yeah. I think I always talked about before the pandemic, I always talked about how whenever we lived abroad, I felt really separated and isolated. But I think there are so many people that feel that just in your everyday life. And I certainly have felt that, like living in the middle of a town that does have a yarn shop and living in the middle of a town with knitters. It's just not always the same as it, like needing that connection, like I said, any time of the day or from different vantage points. Like it's just so nice to have that available.
Yeah, I totally agree. So how do you connect with people online for your knitting? Like how does that work? Like if I want it, I'm a knitter myself and I want to get involved and join your knit alongs and things like that. How does that work for you?
So I'm on Ravelry, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I'm currently running a knit along right now through my Ravelry group, Tellybean Knits through that group. I also find that one of the best ways to get to know knitters is through testing. So some of my best and longest knitting relationships are with my testers. I have a tester who's been testing for me since Telly's feet were small enough to fit into like tiny socks. She tested like my first free pattern. And she was her granddaughter and my daughter are almost the same age. And I feel like those connections are really precious and so valuable. Like I'm so grateful for those. Like I feel like those kinds of things, like you can always reach out to me through email. Like I'm always happy I want to see what you're knitting. Like I want to know what your questions are. I want to know what color combinations you're knitting. I have a knitting friend online right now who's a tester who she's on like a purple streak and it's making me want to knit everything purple. Purple is not a color that I typically like gravitate towards, but her purple streak makes me want to just like get piles of purple yarn and just knit everything purple.
Right?
For fun.
I do the same thing. Like somebody inspires me and I'm like, I need to dye all of this color. Like every single, like they're all this. I do the same thing. Like when, like a few years ago, I was on all the yellows and lately I've been on all the corals and, you know, like, it's just like one of those things that you get on the kick.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, this sweater, this one I knit in your yarn is one of your sophisticated tonals is a simple edition. And it was the beginning of my yellow streak, but I'm currently on also kind of like a coral melon streak at the moment. And again, this was your yarn. I do have a tendency to use your yarn as the catalyst for whatever the next streak of color is that I'm doing.
I love it. I'm so honored when you choose to use my yarn, or sometimes you have like surprise designs and you're like, hey, so I designed this. It's like just blows my mind every time. It's so wonderful to see that type of creativity because, you know, I'm sitting here with dye pots and like dye on my hands. You know what I mean? Right. Like I'm not designing all the time and I'm not talking to designers constantly. And to see that meld of color, texture, and design come together is just so inspiring. Like I just love it. So thank you for all of that. Tell me a little bit about your projects. You have a lot of stuff.
Oh, I know. I spread things out. So right now, I feel like the thing that I can't stop knitting, like I just can't stop knitting them, are these cowls. I call them shawl-shaped cowls. So this is actually kind of a sneak peek. This is a design that's not going to come out until 2023, but these little cowls, I have been knitting them now. Gosh, it's been almost 2 years since I started designing them, and they're the thing that I wear the most. So I'm going to show, this is one we did together last year. This is the stocking stuffer, and they're extremely fun to knit because I feel like it gives you all of the fun fit of a shawl. Triangle shawls are my favorite.
Yeah.
Without any of the hassle of like having to constantly adjust them or knitting something really big. Like they're really quick and very like instant gratification. And whenever there's color work, it's kind of like you got to knit the best part of a color work yoke sweater. You just knit the yoke and it's like, oh, and I don't even have to do all that stockinette.
And then I'm done.
Yeah, and then I'm finished. But they also are fun in that they're knit flat for a portion and then they're knit in the round. And so these, I just can't get in this. All of these behind me are all little cowls. This one is the light candy cowl.
That is the cutest. Your daughter in that is one of my favorite pictures ever.
So they were really the inspiration for these little cowls because they were constantly trying to steal. So this is the tasting menu that we did together a few years ago. They were constantly trying to steal my huge shawls. They'd be like 3 and 4 years old. They're like 3 feet tall. They're like, I would like a shawl that I could wrap from my feet all the way up to my nose. And then I'd like to get on a bicycle and go someplace like school. It'll be awesome. And so I started doing these because I just wanted them to be able to grab them and put them on by themselves. And they really are so knit worthy. Like they show off hard. Like they will cycle through all of my knits in like a week and a half just so that they can get lots and lots of attention. And so a lot of my cowls will come in a kiddo size and then they'll come in an adult size. Not all of them. Some of them are just adult size cowls, but they're the thing that I reach for the most. They're the easiest for me to style, the easiest for me to put on. They're the most fun for me to knit because they use so little yardage. They fly off my needles and they're really good for mini skeins. And mini skeins are like the happy center of my knitting universe, or mini skeins. So yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't tell at all.
Who knew?
No, that's awesome. I really like those too. I've knit half. I know it's slightly embarrassing. I never finish any project. Like for the people who are watching who are like fans, you know that I literally never finish anything, but I've knit half of the I Heart Sheep one. And I love it. I have to finish it because I want to wear it on the farm with my sheep. Yes. I like as soon as you designed that, I was like, I need to wear that.
So my youngest stole that one this morning. So we got out all of the knits yesterday. So it finally got like really cold. And I've been waiting. I wear these cowls all year round, but my daughters will only wear it when it's cold out. And so we got out the stack, and it's like a pretty sizable stack, which is why I have so many of them available, not in my knitting tubs right now. But she stole the I Heart Sheep this morning. She really likes the brights and the hearts and like the happy little sheep, and she wears them. My oldest wears hers tucked inside of her coat so that when she takes her coat off, it's like a reveal because she has knitting teachers at school that she. But my youngest wears them on the outside of her coat so that everyone can see her coming.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so adorable. I love it. Every time you come out with the design, especially the color work ones.
Yeah.
With the fun little, little guys. I just think that they're adorable, but everybody has their own style, but I like that you mix fun with sophisticated all the time. Like
I just think you shouldn't take yourself too seriously. Yeah. I used to, when I very first started the business, feel like everything needed to be like super trendy, or it needed to be so sophisticated that I could stand in the wind and like make a serious face at the camera. And then I realized how much my designs were suffering. Like I was doing so many fun things for the kids. And then I got to a point where the kids were modeling, but they were like, they could stand up. At the beginning, they were like holding a Lego and I was just trying to keep them from falling down because they were so little. But then they were like standing up and they would pose for things and very straight face. I'm like, this is not working, guys. Like, I'm knitting stuff for me, I'm knitting stuff for you, but we like it, right? Like, we're having a good time. Why don't you just do you in all the pictures? Wear it the way you want to wear it. And when we started doing that, I stopped taking my knitwear as seriously. I stopped taking the photos as seriously. I stopped taking the way that the kids wore their knits as seriously. And it like liberated my whole design process. So like I feel like the one that I think of the most is, it's called the NAR cap.
Oh, yes. I love that. That's so cute.
So this is probably like the most worn sweater from it went through both of my kids, and it's got a little tail in the back. And I have a narwhal version of it. Oh wait, here's the narwhal version. I have a narwhal version of it and the NAR cap version.
Oh my goodness.
It's got a little tail. And this was like, the kids had so much fun in the pictures. They got so much attention when they wore the sweaters. And I started putting their names on all their sweaters with little tags so they could take them to school. Because before, I was treating every knit like it was really precious. And so everything would go on my kids. We'd take pictures and then it would go in a box. And I think we made it to, I know it was sad. I think my oldest was in kindergarten when I thought to myself, I'm knitting so many sweaters for the kids. Do I really care if this sweater goes to school? Like, they wanted to live in their sweater. So I just started letting them. So like, and then I was shocked at how well the yarn would hold up. Like my kids would belly surf down like dirt hills into sandy water, and it would come home and I would just like wash it and it looked brand new. So this one has lived through 2 preschool experiences in kindergarten, and it looks brand new still. Like, my kids love these sweaters.
There is a lot to be said of high quality yarn. You will be surprised at how well it holds up. Like last year, so it's my first winter in Kentucky. Yeah, I wore a shawl or a cowl that had solo in it. So like a singles. That I think by the end of farm season this winter, this is going to be destroyed. Yeah. And it looks perfect. Like it looks amazing. And so you'd be surprised, like when people who have kids ask me all the time, like, can I let them wear this? Should I even bother knitting for them? Right. And I love your answer. Like, of course, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and we started realizing that we could I started, instead of thinking, okay, I'm going to knit this so that I can get it on them, I started knitting things so that they could wear them for 2 seasons, which is tricky to do with little kids because they grow so much. So my business really began as like a children's knitwear business. And so I was thinking a lot about how I was going to make the kids' stuff fit. So I started knitting a lot of the bodies so that the body portion of the sweater was long, kind of like a tunic, because kids don't grow out as fast as they grow up. And so then we'd make all the sleeves would be fold over sleeves. So then when you got to the second season, you could just pop them open. And then if my kids really love the sweater, then it would be like, okay, you can wear a t-shirt that's the appropriate length underneath it because they don't want your belly showing after you've completely worn down the sweater. And I know that it's stretchy, but like I need all of your skin covered when it's 30 degrees outside. But so they really wear hard now, and they last. Good quality yarn lasts forever.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's something that you were talking about earlier that we hadn't recorded, but we were just chit chatting before. And you said, these are things that I want to pass down to your kids. Like,
that's right. That's right. They're going to my grandchildren.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause my kids want to dress up all their stuffed animals right now with all of the baby knits from when they were really little. And I was like, that's like a step farther than I can go. They get all the swatches. I have a lot of super cool swatches now, and I don't know what to do with them. And I feel like they're living the happiest possible life. Like all of these little cowls are such a funny shape. And so whenever you knit the swatches, I actually knit them in the same shape. And so they're just like an eensy weensy version. And my kids will put their like favorite animals inside, and then they'll be like really fancy dresses with like color work on them.
That's awesome. I love that.
Really joyful.
My husband steals all my swatches. Like, for
what?
I'm like, I have to block it, or I want to refer to it again. Yeah. And I'm like, where did that? Like, I had a swatch with like blue yarn, and he's like, oh yeah, it's right here. It's next to my chair. I'm using it as a coaster. I'm like, I just
yeah, actually.
Yeah, he's smart. I mean, but he like literally will take my swatches and I'll see him all over on different counters because he's like a coaster dude. Like he doesn't want to clean the rings. Yeah, he's the cleaner in the house. So, he takes all my swatches.
Love it.
I have adult children in my house.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So I had a couple of questions from our members group, and I didn't know you still have time for me to ask you a couple.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So this one, I love this one. She said, where do you get most of your pattern inspirations from? Because they're really whimsical.
Oh, thank you. So I am really inspired by the yarn a lot of the times. I do get ideas where I'm just like, oh, I need a skeleton hat. Like, I just need a skeleton hat. Like, I really need a skeleton hat. I do get ideas like that where it's like seasonal holidays are really inspiring for me. I feel like taking the opportunity to like celebrate your family and your kids and your yarn, like holidays do give you that opportunity in a really special way. I used to never knit holiday knits thinking that they wouldn't get worn enough. Then you become so prolific that you're like, of course I need 5 Halloween themed knits. Like, what else would I wear in October? But I also didn't realize like how much joy it was going to bring me, my family, and then like random people on the street will walk up to me and be like, I really like that Halloween cowl. Mm-hmm. Like, and it just like, I really like that. And so for me, a lot of times it's the yarn. Like if I get a really bright color, your pinks tend to really inspire me. Like I do a lot with your pinks.
I think that you've used every single pink that I've ever done.
They're so good. And so, and like I said, when I stopped taking myself so seriously and just started knitting like what my heart wanted, my heart wants a lot of hearts. My heart wants really bright colors and rainbows. And I just feel like, I don't know, whatever makes me happy in the moment is usually what I knit. My kids are really inspiring too. I read a lot of picture books, even though they're too old for it. And you don't really outgrow picture books.
No, you don't.
No. And like, I smile when I see my knits in my lap. And so I want the kids. I feel like there are times of the year, like when my kids are out wearing their knits, I bet strangers are smiling at them because of the thing that they're wearing. Like, that's a narwhal sweater. I'm going to smile at that kid. And then my kid gets a smile and they get all this like street cred for their sweaters. I want that for everybody. I want everybody to have those like knit street cred smiles.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, even I don't know about like other knitters, but like anytime I see something that I think is like, that has to be handmade. Like I go up to people and ask them.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how many compliments I've gotten on the it was a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago. Is your heart head hat?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had that sample knit and have it, and I've worn it like a million times.
Yes.
And every time I wear it, somebody comes up to me and is like, I love that. Where did you get that? Like, what is this? How do I find colorful hearts like that? So it's really nice. Like, I love that about it because it's a conversation starter.
Yes.
I love those things.
That's another way to connect with people out in the world. Like having knitting in your lap is a conversation starter for non-knitters. Like it's a good way to just get to know people. And I am the same. I can identify a hand knit garment from like half a mile away. And I will walk well out of my way to be like, whoever knit you that is awesome. Was it grandma? Give her a shout out. She's amazing. Was it mom? You should go hug her right now. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think people realize who are not knitters how special it is to get something handmade. Yeah. The knit worthiness of your children. I want that for like the whole world.
I know.
Everybody understand how much they're loved.
Yeah. Well, and if I knit something for someone and I don't see them wear it, I'm like, okay, first, we're going to talk about, do you need help blocking it? I will block it when I come to visit you. If you are not wearing it because you feel that it's dirty, it's probably not, but I will block it so that you feel comfortable wearing it again. And then B, I'm going to check. Did you like it? Like, are you keeping it as something precious? Like my mom is maybe the most knitworthy person, and my kids are really knitworthy, and my husband is really knitworthy, but my mom is the most knitworthy. And we have a pact now that if she wears something out, that I'll replace it. She has worn through hats, gloves, sweaters, shawls. She wears them so much and she wears them so hard that she will like rub a hole in the palm of a really good mitten. And then she won't even ask me to replace it. She'll just like come and get it out. You know, like she'll be at my house and she'll like put something on and I'll see the like massive hole in her knitting. And so I have like a stack of things like ready to like swap things out or mend things for her. Like started getting, you know, experimenting with some good mending techniques because of my mom.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I would rather, and I've talked about this to different people before, is I would much rather see you wear it, love it, wear it out, tear it up, you know, whatever, put holes in it, than have it pristine on a shelf. And that's what, when you said that you let your kids wear it for the pictures and then take it off, I'm like, it's so sad. Like,
it was brief. It was very sad. It was like, looking back on it now, like if you're ever on my website, which, you know, you should check out, but if you're ever on my website, you'll see my kids dance in our photos. Like my kids grin. They really smile in their photos. My oldest is now getting to where she like poses a lot, and she's, in my opinion, she's really gorgeous. I'm pretty biased. But like we have silliness in our photos, and like that silliness is like who my kids are. Like that's what I want. I want people to wear the knits that I give them like they live their life. Like I just want you to live in it.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I love that. And you're talking about mending techniques. It's so fun to watch people be creative with that stuff too. So it's not the end of the life for anything. You know, you just can keep on going and make it something new. So I think that's so cool. I don't know if I have any time I think we've reached the end of our time.
We're chatting.
I know we both have things that we have to do. So I'll let you go, but I want to tell you, thank you so much for doing this interview and just doing the video with me. I appreciate it so much. I love watching what you do, and I couldn't be more thankful that you love the yarn that I'm making. So
I'm so grateful too. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone who decided to watch. And like, I'm excited to see what we get to do together next.
Yeah. Well, do you want to show up your skeleton hat? That's coming out next, right?
Yes, skeleton hat is coming out in October. There's also a cowl coming out in October, which I don't have right next to me. This one will be in 2023. I've got lots of Lolo plans. On the horizon. Yeah.
And you've got a box of USADK little Lolos headed your way.
Yes, I'm pretty excited. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Bye.